So let's go ahead and get to this TNA Impact reaction show. And I got to be honest, and I want to get to the chat too. I want to know what you guys thought of the show this week, because I did not think this was a strong show. In fact, I don't think they did anything to capitalize on the momentum that they had coming out of Slammiversary. And now I do think that next week's show is going to be stronger. And in fact, I think that this week's show, this past Thursday night, was kind of a countdown show or a pre-show to next week, because they didn't do anything on this show. Legit, like, if you missed the show, there's literally no reason for you to go back to watch it. There's nothing. There's no significant story plot turns. There's nothing like that. They kicked the show off with a recap of Slammiversary, and I thought that was pretty good. And then Nic Nemeth comes out, and so the TNA World Champion Wanted Man Nic Nemeth comes out dressed in a suit, and he's got the title. Fans chant, "You deserve it." And then Nemeth gets started on the mic, and he's said that he's proud to be the champion, and he's going to do the whole thing where anybody, anywhere, open challenge type of thing. He didn't exactly say open challenge, but it's kind of what he was implying. And then he says he'll fight anyone, any night, anytime, any place. And of course, campaign Singh cuts him off, and then he introduces the greatest X Division champion of all time, Mustafa Ali. And then his music comes out, and he's also in a suit. And he says, no disrespect to Nemeth meant by his presence as he joins the new champ in the ring. He says he wants to shake his hand. Nemeth hesitates to do so, but Ali pulls away and says, but that is not more important than what happened to me. He calls what happened to him at Slammiversary the biggest screw job in the history of wrestling. He says he made the X Division great again. And then he basically says he wants to make the TNA World Championship great again. Nemeth then makes fun of him for getting his ass kicked by Speedball, and essentially accepts the challenge. And then we're going to get that next week. They did try to attack him, but Nemeth took out campaign Singh. Okay, so is it just me? Or are they setting up Mustafa Ali's exit? I don't think this guy's sticking around. And I kind of called this a little bit ago, because when Stephanie Vaquer, who was working for CMLL, took a deal with WWE, I said it's only a matter of time before AEW starts plucking TNA talent who aren't on long-term deals to kind of like annoy WWE's partners. And because I think if Ali went to AEW, he would be fine, but I don't see that he would bring a ton of value to that company. I don't think that he really actually fits in very well there, despite the fact that he can do all the matches that they like to do. I just don't think that his act is made for AEW. And if it would not surprise me to see him on Ring of Honor, to be honest with you. So I think his act has been perfect for what TNA does. And because he's so good in the ring, like, he's kind of become a 5-tool player for TNA. So I'm going to be disappointed to see him go. But I think they're setting up for his exit here. And it would not surprise me that next week, after next week, we see Ali do the big thank you to TNA. And then it starts leaking that he has an offer on the table for AEW. I hope I'm wrong. I hope by the end of the show, when I'm done recording, Ali gets announced for Tampa, the Tampa taping this next weekend. But I have not seen him be announced for that show. I know he was announced for other shows later in the year, but that was probably when they assumed that he was still going to be in the company. I have not seen him be announced for Tampa. He's on advertising Tampa as of this recording. You guys can interrupt me at any point and tell me that I'm wrong, and I would love that. But I'm just, by the way, I'm reading the tea leaves here and just how things go in TNA. Big stars like that, losing 2 significant main event matches in a row usually leads me to believe that they're probably on the way out, especially when they never had a contract with the company and they're a freelancer. Tells me that he might be on his way out. So Tom Hannafin and Ray will announce the PCO and Stephanie Lander wedding for next week. And then backstage you see ABC and Broken Matt Hardy. ABC asked Hardy for suggestions on a game plan tonight, noting the system has a numbers advantage. Hardy says it's true because Jeff is not here, but someone else might show up if we believe. So foreshadowing Joe Hendry showing up in the main event. And then backstage, man, this was I didn't think this was good at all. But we return, we see Nic Nemeth and Ryan Nemeth talking, and then Frankie Kazarian walks up and tells Nemeth he's still the king. Says he screwed him out of the title at Slammiversary. Nemeth said he's a fighting champion, but get to the back of the line. Ryan Nemeth tells Kaz that they have unfinished business, and then, of course, Santino just happens to be standing nearby, and he walks up and confirms Nemeth versus Ali next week, and Ryan Nemeth versus Kazarian for next week. So I wonder what the title match for. It looks like the title match for Emergence is going to be Kazarian versus Nic Nemeth, but I could also see it being Josh Alexander, or maybe they hold Josh Alexander off to Victory Road because Victory Road's in the bigger venue in the Boeing Center there in San Antonio. And then we come back, and it's the theme. Steve Maclin's music hits, and he comes to the ring. He gets on the mic and says he's got something to get off his chest. He says he kicked everyone's ass at Slammiversary, but then he got caught, and he admits it. And he takes issue with the Montreal crowd singing na 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 hey hey goodbye. And then he calls USA the greatest country in the world. He's correct about that. And then Maclin sings the song, but then he throws in Kiss My Ass. And then out comes old Cody Deaner. And he says he speaks for all Canadians here in Montreal. And he says Maclin needs to shut his mouth. Anyway, he eventually gets in the ring after he does his shtick and gets his ass whooped appropriately. So there you go. That was that whole thing. But at least, Maclin got a win on TV. So that's cool. All right. And then we go to Death Machine Television with Sami Callihan. This was not good. And he's promoting a match with AJ Francis. And he's promoting a match with AJ Francis. And I don't know. I don't find this to be entertaining. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's interesting. They zoomed in on his teeth, and brother needs to see a dentist. I don't know. Some people like this stuff. It does not hit with me. And then we go to the match. AJ Francis gets the big victory over Sami Callihan. And the match just wasn't good either. Like, the crowd wasn't into it. Sami Callihan's trying to do all his shtick in the match, and the thumbs up and the thumbs down and all the stuff that he does. But eventually, Josh Bishop, who is a monster. I'm really glad they got this guy in the company. He's green though. So that's going to be the thing. And I noticed that when I was doing those MLW reviews that he needs some work. But I think he's a good guy to have in this company. But he goes for a leg drop, but Callihan moves and comes back with a low clothesline to a seated Francis. Callihan looks for a Cactus Driver 97, but Swan distracts the referee, allowing Josh Bishop to attack, and Francis hits a down payment for the victory. And then we go to Rosemary, who did like a 4-minute vignette. And for the life of me, I don't know what she's talking about. I know that her friends left, but I don't know what her goals are. I don't know who she's mad at. I know that there's something with Ash by Elegance, so they'll probably get to that eventually. But I don't know. Like, has she been in? Why can't she wrestle? Like, why isn't she wrestling? She's just doing these vignettes and sitting in the crowd. And I know they're trying to get her over, but I just don't understand what they're doing. Like, it's like nothing has really been explained. Makes no sense. And then we go Hammerstone and Ash by Elegance defeat Eric Young and Jordan Grace. So, Hammerstone was able to get his victory back over Eric Young. And then Iceman's he's standing ringside looking nervous because they're doing a gimmick where he's worried that Rosemary is going to show up with a knife again. Look, never show up with a weapon you're not willing to use. Grace and Hammerstone end up alone in the ring. Hammerstone throws her out to the floor where Ash hits a Meteora for the apron. Back in the ring, Hammerstone gets Young and a torture rack for the win. So, when you got a guy that's as big as Hammerstone and you're doing a mixed tag match and the women are doing moves on Hammerstone, it kind of takes me out of the match. And I know that Jordan Grace is like a powerhouse, but it even looked ridiculous when Ash by Elegance was trying to drag Eric Young over to the corner. Eric Young's like 230 pounds, and he was very clearly moving himself for Ash to make it look like Ash was moving him. It's like you guys, you don't have to do the intergender stuff. I thought the whole match was weak. but he got the torture rack for the victory. Camille Brickhouse using the torture rack now, so you can tell that R.D. Evans using his influence over there. Josh Alexander is coming out, and he came out. He's got a new theme song, and that's been a long time coming, man. Because I feel like his dubstep stuff that he was doing before was garbage. I did not think it was any good. So I dig the new ring music. It's got more energy, and I think that's what was missing out of his last theme song. But he gets into the ring, man. He has the mic, and fans break out in a you suck chant. Alexander just reacts to the boos and chants from the crowd. He says they're making it easy on him. He calls himself a proud Canadian, but they're making him look forward to return to his home, a real city like Toronto, and that got a bunch of boos. And he says, you guys want an explanation for what I did at Slammiversary? He holds the mic out and simply drops it, and he stands with his head down in the middle of the ring. And Montreal fans love that Nana Nana song. Then he pretends to come back in the ring before leaving, but ultimately walks off instead. So there you go. I thought that was a pretty strong segment. But Josh is just wearing like a baseball jersey. Like, he needs to update his look, because he's got that everyman look and everyman vibe. He needs to start looking more like a star, especially now that he's heel. He just kind of looks like a dad going to Walmart all the time. So he's got to update that look a little bit. They're going to have to figure out that wardrobe to make him stand out a little bit more. But I think they got something with heel Josh. I really do. And in fact, I am predicting he's going to take the title off Nemeth. And the Bound for Glory match will be Hendry and Josh Alexander. That's official prediction. And then highlights of Shana Wesley with the Rascals on NXT this week. That was a really good match, by the way. The Rascals versus Axiom and Javon Evans. That was very good. I actually was able to watch that yesterday. So good stuff. And then Speedball Mike Bailey's backstage with it for an interview, and he calls the win over Mustafa Ali in his hometown in front of 4,000 people. It was 3,500 people, and the biggest win of his career. Bailey says the TNA was built on two things: the knockouts and the X division. And as he keeps talking, and walks the Rascals and with Wesley, and they talk about a potential 6-man match with the three of them against Bailey, Trent Seven, and another partner. They all shake hands, and we go to another break. So that's going to be next week. So again, like, I feel like this show was just a preview show for next week's episode. And then we get to the main event, and I thought the main event was pretty good. And it looks like I did miss something, and I think you IO in the chat. And sorry, chat, I did not get to you guys during this recap thing, because I really I had to kind of blow through it. But the System had a promo earlier in the show, and this says the shows the malfunction cracks of the System starting. They were not happy in that backstage promo. Yeah, they were not happy. They're not doing good. I don't think the System lasts out the year. I think they're gonna be out of here soon. Not like out of the company, but I think they're gonna be broken up. And maybe that would open the door for a Hurt Business, which I don't think is gonna happen. But I think that, like, if it did happen, that would make some sense. But we go to Matt Hardy and ABC defeating the System, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC. And I thought that the match was very good. During the middle of the match, Moose came out and started to get involved a little bit, which also drew out Joe Hendry, who came out. They actually played his music, and he walked out. And the crowd went ape for him, and so that was cool. And then they also did the big spot towards the end of the match where Hendry gets involved to make it look like he's like Hulk Hogan. Doesn't have Hulk Hogan's charisma, but he kind of like they put him in that Hulk Hogan spot. So we'll come back from the break. When we return, we see Hardy and ABC still in control of the action until some cheap heel tactics from the System results in them taking over. Moose makes his way to ringside, but soon after the theme for Joe Hendry hits and the crowd goes nuts as he heads down to the ringside area. System continues to control the offense. The show shifts gears and heads into a mid-match commercial break. Fans try and rally behind the babyfaces with an ABC chant. And as Bay remains isolated in the ring while JDC, Myers, and Edwards utilize frequent tags to keep a fresh man on him at all times, Bay hits an Inzagiri that buys him some much-needed time. The fans rally behind him again. And this time he makes it to his corner for the tag. Hardy comes in with a ton of energy, taking it to JDC. All 6 men end up in the ring together. Moose hits the ring, looking to take out Hardy, but hits his own guy. Hendry hits the ring, takes out Moose. Hardy hits a twist of fate on JDC, tags in Bay, who hits the top rope splash for the victory. and they all pose together in the ring as the show goes off the air. So, and then next week we got the PCO Steph DeLander wedding, Jody Threat versus Masha, Rosemary gets back in the ring, Nemeth versus Kazarian, Ryan Nemeth versus Kazarian, Nic Nemeth versus Mustafa Ali, and then of course we're gonna have a trios match next week with the Rascals versus Speedball, Trent Seven, and another partner. But yeah, so that was the show, man. Like I said, not much to the show this week, and very much a kind of a hangover episode. And I really think they should bring the Thunder on these post pay-per-view shows and bring some more excitement, because back in the day, the first episode after a pay-per-view, a lot of people tuned in because they didn't buy the pay-per-view, so they wanted to see like what happened at the pay-per-view and what new storylines are going to, because it's kind of like typically a fresh start in the company after a pay-per-view. And really we didn't get that feeling this week. They kind of continued some storylines that were in the pay-per-view. Then we did get some new stuff, like Josh Alexander, his heel turn. But why was other than the fact that Matt Hardy asked Joe Hendry to be there, why was Joe Hendry there? He has no beef with the system. His beef was with Josh Alexander. He didn't come out to confront Josh. He just let Josh go out there and talk. So that made no sense. Why is Mustafa Ali getting a title shot when he lost last night? Well, I guess because he challenged him. So I guess you could, logically you can connect the dots there. So, but next week's episode looks much, much better. And then of course you got the TV taping block coming up next weekend in Tampa, and Jeff and Matt Hardy will be in full force then. So, but yeah, guys, thanks to everybody that was in the chat. I really appreciate you guys for being here. This was a fun episode. And thanks to people, if you popped in, I got the notification halfway through the show that Voices of Wrestling deleted the tweet because I put the show out for free by accident. So if you did happen to pop in here because of that, welcome. Go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. Become a Patreon subscriber today. And until next time, mahalo.